On my paternal side, on my father's side, he was half white and half Kiowa. And on my mother's side, she was half Cheyenne and half Sioux from Pine Ridge. Ogallala Sioux was from Pine Ridge.
So, and I take it you grew up hearing...
But I grew up in the Cheyenne district of Watonga, born and raised there.
So I guess you grew up hearing a couple different languages?
Well, when I was small, my dad talked to me some in Kiowa, and I would sing church songs in Kiowa. And when I would go over and visit my grandparents, well, my grandpa had to learn to talk Cheyenne because my grandma didn't speak English. But he got very fluent in it, and he talked really, really good. And so he talked Cheyenne all the time. They talked Cheyenne all the time, and that's more or less where I learned the Cheyenne language, because I would sit and listen to them, and then when they converse, back and forth, and then I just really try to remember the words so I could understand them the next time, And if I didn't know, I asked them, and which my grandpa was real good about explaining the words to me, now this means this, and you say it like this, and he was just real good on explaining it to me. And then my dad, he learned the Cheyenne language too, but like I said, they did talk mostly English at home, but he did learn the Cheyenne language real good too. So I was just more or less a farmer's daughter. We lived out in the country, and my dad was just a big farmer. Oh, we had a big farm, and of course leased other lands for farm. And he planted various crops, and we had a lot of cows, horses, and just different lamb. We had some lamb, but one thing we never did keep is pigs. I don't know, something about my mother never did take care for pigs. And my mother would she'd grow a large garden and she would always, at that time, the Bureau of Indian Affairs would always give out a prize to the one who had the best garden in the whole, you might say, I guess, reservation or the whole area of the Cheyenne Arapaho. And she would always win, because I know we would be out there weeding that garden and just really made it, and it was very productive, and she would she canned just about anything she could can. And then that way we had our food for the winter. Very occasionally I would go with my grandma and grandpa when I'd go stay. Maybe they'd be having, at that time they used to call it hang game, the Indian activity, And so we'd go over there, and I'd see it. And then around the holidays, Christmas, Easter, beginning of Christmas or New Year's, they used to select officers, and they got to selecting me as on the officer because my father used to always butcher a beef and give it to the community, And so that's the only Indian activity I really knew up until, he passed away at an early age, and I was just 10 years old when he passed away. And we tried to stay on the farm, but my mother and I had two younger brothers, and we just couldn't handle it. And besides, we still burned wood too out there, and it was just all inconvenient. So we moved to town, and then still might have been a couple of years before I really got to know I started going to church right off, went to the Indian church, and started learning the Indian songs, the Indian hymns, and just got involved with really the church. And then about maybe a couple of years, and then we started getting involved in other Indian activities. And I remember when during the war times then, when a soldier came home, the families always used to have a dance for that soldier, an honor dance. So we got to go into them, and then they selected my mother as chair. About each town, or maybe that one or two clubs, which was called women's. Nowadays it would be called auxiliary clubs, but women's clubs who had boys in the service. Well, my mother really didn't have any sons direct, but she had a nephew and my stepbrother, or my half-brother, was in the service. So she was the chairman for up until she passed away. And so we got to go into all them dances and stuff. Then we got to go into powwows. And I was selected the Watonga's first princess. So after that, you know, we just really got involved. Got to go into Anadarko, to the Indian Fair, and just to all the various Indian dances they used to have. My son would always go out with this Gorton Yellow Man. Him and Gorton are same age, and they were just ride together all the time. So Gorton's father and mother took my son for their son. So I guess Gorton and my boy Charlie planned one time. They was getting ready to have Sundance there in Watonga. And so I guess they said they was going to go in Sundance. I didn't know a thing about it. I was like a chicken with her head cut off, running around to get what I needed. Of course, Mr. Yellowman said, well, I'll furnish most of the things they need, but still I had to get a lot of stuff, you know. And so that's how we got started getting involved in the ceremonials. And then I think from then on, I think every year, just about every year, we've camped at the Sundance. And then later on, I had other members of my family started, you know, participating. And it's been really, really interesting. I got my divorce. I went to work in the hospital, and I spent, I think, about 10 years in the hospital, and then I just said, well, I've got to do something else, make more money too, because I had several kids. And so I applied for LPN school. Well, I got in, finished. I went to work for a community action agency as their nurse and health director, and worked there for 31 and a half years. And then, after I got to making better money, and then I had this granddaughter. I took her. They were living in Oklahoma City, her and her mother, and I just did not like the way she had to wait on a bus, and her mother would already be gone, and I said, oh no, this isn't going to work. Of course, it wasn't as bad as it is, you know, now, but still I asked her if she wanted to come back home. Oh, she was just thrilled to come back. She said, oh, I'll get to go back to my friends. So we brought her back, and her mother would try to take her back. She would not go back to her mother. So I got to doing for her what I wasn't able to do for my other girls, you know.
So you've been raising a granddaughter?
That one granddaughter. Yeah. And then I got her a buckskin dress, and of course she started getting picked for princess for various different organizations and powwows. So I went ahead and got a buckskin dress for her, and she went on to be Miss Junior in Oklahoma. Nobody sat on chairs. Nobody had chairs back then, you know, to sit on. Everybody sat on the ground. And then some of the men went ahead and made benches, you know, and that's what they did. And it was just, if one side would win, and then that side that win would dance, you know. Oh, you would make a box and decorate it and just try to make it as pretty as you can, or, you know, just decorate it to where it would be kind of stand out, you know. And then they would sell it. Oh, you fix enough in that box to put in sandwiches, whatever you could, edible. You know, back then we didn't have a lot of this fast food, and we didn't have a lot of this fruit like we have now. Of course, we had oranges and apples and stuff like that. But you put stuff in there, but you put enough in there for two to eat. you and whoever would buy the box, the two of you would eat together after whoever bought the box, and they would sell it to the highest bidder. And it's like he said, if you wanted them boys, if they wanted their girlfriend to buy their box, well, they'd go and tell them which was their box and try to bid on it the highest. Of course, it never was just outrageous price, you know. It was, I think the one that time when my grandma made me make that box, it was well, he was a distant relative and a man, but he used to tease me a lot, you know, because a lot of the men around Watauga would call me white girl, because, you know, I was real fair when I was small, younger, and they used to, and I remember him saying, "Oh, I got that white girl's box," and then we would, it was just like that, and I enjoyed eating, you know, with him, and of course he joked a lot, you know, all during that time, but, and then we, like I said, on this other, we got, you know, started going to these ceremonials, and then next was Barabewed, and then here we just, so I just really lived a, you'd say, busy life, or me working that many years. I worked there 31 and a half years at Opportunities, and I traveled the whole northwest part of the state. Like along this time, I would be giving flu shots all over the northwest part of the state. I really don't know what's going to take, because just like trying to teach mine, they seem like they're just not as interested. And like I heard this one girl and a boy say at two different times at Watauga, well, they weren't Indian, but they made this comment, oh, they took this class just so they didn't really have to do anything that important, I guess you'd say, with this class, and they took it just to be taking something easy, where they didn't really have to learn the language. And I interrupted on the girl, and I said, "You mean you not having to learn? You don't take no tests on it or anything?" She said, "Oh, no." And I said, "Well, do you know any words?" And oh, she knew 2, 3, but still she wasn't saying them right. So, you know, I just think they're just not serious about, you know, at that age. I think it should start way back in pre-K, and then from there. But I think they're just wasting their money trying to start them where they're at now, unless it's somebody that is just determined to learn the language. There's one boy, well, in fact, he works here at, I don't know if you know him, Craig Hard. He's just a young boy, but see, he was around his grandma all the time, and now he is just fluent in Cheyenne, knows the songs, he knows the traditions, and that's why I was telling him in there, you need to get him in on this deal. And now both his mother and grandma are gone, but he took me for his mother, and so every time he calls me on the phone, he talks Cheyenne. He'll say, "It's so good to, you know, talk to." So, you know, when you don't have anybody to talk to, gets away from you. And just like with that one, just only one of, well, 2 of them are from Sealand, and that one, Rita, she calls me a lot, and of course we talk Cheyenne, you know, when we're talking on the phone. And this other one, Ruth Brooks, when we're talking a lot, we try to talk Cheyenne, and then tell stories, you know, that we know of things. Of course, we were from the same town, but it's we try to. But anybody else, people I know even older than me, you try to converse with them in Cheyenne. I don't know what you're talking about. And I just don't think you could find a school kid that would be fluent enough to carry on a conversation at that. No, you must say a few words. Nipil Mata, are you feeling good? Let's see. that would be their response back to you. Or, where are you going? Doesn't hurt. Or doesn't das hurt. That would be the phrases. And it's a good day. And just, I know pretty well, all. Once in a while, though, I'm getting where I sure, especially names. And I have more people come to me and say, oh, did you remember my grandpa's name or my aunt's name? I want to name my child that. And there's a lot now wants to you take Indian names, especially on my family. Oh, I said, I didn't run out, and they want family names. I said, I didn't run out of family names. And remembering names is my weakest thing. But a lot of times with Ruth, she'll call me sometimes, how do you say this? How do you say it? And then sometimes I forget. And a lot of times in the middle of the night, I'll think of what I'm going to say. It was good to come to talk to you. I remember some men coming to the house, and then my mother told me, she caught me in there in the front room. Of course, I remember when we'd have visitors, we weren't allowed to go in the front room, where they would be. But she called me in there, and she said, they want to know, she said, we're going to put you in this clan. It's called Lightning Clan. And she said, they pick only nice and good girls. Now, she said, we're going to put you in there. And she said, if we put you in there, now we're going to expect you to be to be really good, nice, and of course friendly, and just really a nice type of girl. And she said, so I said, all right, that's game for it. So they start making my grandma start making my buckskin dress. Well, before she didn't get through with it because she had one eye. She had lost one eye when they were getting wood, and she started beating my buckskin dress, and she wasn't through with it when we first started. I guess you'd say performing to dance. Well, every two girls had different things to dance with. Okay, there was two that danced with the first two. They danced with lances. They, how they dance like that. Dance with lances. And the other two danced with the curved, what are they called? They used to dance with them in processional set. But it was a curved and had beadwork on it, and I think otter hide on it, and all that. The next two danced with that. And then there was us. There was two of us, Julia Goodbear and I. We danced with war bonnets. And my grandpa had my war bonnet made by some relatives at Pine Ridge. It was the kind that they call it, I think, with a tail with the feathers all the way down. And then the next two, let's see two danced with wheels. That wheel was all decorated. Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8. Yeah, the wheel. And they, keep like this to keep in motion of the wheel. And we would it's kind of like the round dance. We danced there. Then there was one man that would dance first. He was, I really don't know what he was called exactly, but he was head of us, I guess, head of the clan. He would dance first around in the circle, and then we would dance. And of course, while we would be dancing, you'd hear all them women just lulling and everybody just carrying on. And I remember that my friend, she had that wheel, and I remember they'd just be hollering at her to keep it going, in motion. And we would dance 4 times, and then we'd rest a while and dance another 4 times, and until we danced 16 times, and then that was it. But we were called on to go dance at different functions and different. I remember one time this lady was very sick, and they asked us to come over there to dance, and she got up and started moving around, got well from just by watching us, and it's going. And then they all started dying off, and see that even from the group from Sealand, and the other two girls that had the war bonnets at Sealand, Mary Lilla Coyote and Catherine Bullcoming, they've passed on too, and Catherine passed, it's just been a few years ago, and they put the war bonnet on, well, with Mary's too, they put war bonnet on top of the casket, and on Catherine's I took the war bonnet off, and that was, and now, and even the songs, we don't know them anymore. That's where I made a big mistake, is not recording it. And I remember the last time we danced, and that was just, I think 4 of us participated. It was at Fonda, Oklahoma, and we danced at that hall. And of course, we was a lot older now, but it was so good to dance again to it. And then Roy Nightwalker knew them songs just really good, and he told me that night. I told him, Roy, could you record that for me? But apparently he never did, and then just before he passed away, well, he was already pretty sick, and I told his wife to ask him if he ever recorded it. And she said, oh, she said, his mind's just not good anymore. I don't know. I'll ask him. But I guess he said, yeah, somewhere. That's all he said, and that they really couldn't find him nowhere. When I first started, it didn't even mean anything to me because I was just too young, I guess, to really realize But then as I got older, and then after my mother told me that no other were allowed to, wear war bonnets, and then it felt like an honor, and it was, well, when you're honored for something, you have that special feeling, and you just really, really have a feeling of pride, and just want to I'm doing this for the tribe, I'm doing this for our people, and being able to do this as a woman, where I've been able to wear a war bonnet, is really something that nobody else will ever know. And then so like this, when I'm gone, and I was willing to pass it on to my granddaughter, but nobody knew the songs, and nobody seemed to want to, they weren't interested in wanting to, and the other 2 ladies that wanted to start it back and get it going back, they both passed away just real quick, and then just next thing I knew, it was just me. I still feel honored when somebody, mentions it or brings it up, just like they had a meeting out here at Cheyenne for the chiefs. They wanted the chiefs, and then that one lady, one of the Hart girls, told me, she said, I'm going to give you the same honor as the chiefs. She said, I'm going to give you the same stipend and everything the chiefs are getting. She said, just for going and, participating with them out there. And, well, so, if somebody remembers and recognizes, it's really, really an honor. And like I said, I was willing to pass it on, and but now I told my daughters, all right, when I'm gone, all right, that war bonnet goes on, and I want her, that my granddaughter, and my great-granddaughter, because she's named after me in Cheyenne. I said, I want you 2 to take it off. And then I told her what to do. So that's what's going to happen. I remember here a few years ago at Watonga, there was a tornado coming right toward Watonga, and my daughter come running up to the house. She said, where are them sticks? And my mother had taught her how to do them. So she took them sticks out and held them out toward the direction of the thunder. And sure enough, that tornado just turned, went went east before it got to Watauga, but it had been heading right toward Watauga. Are things that we had in the past and still have, like the Sundance and stuff. It has a lot of power to it and has some serious meaning to it. And if you just take care of it, abide by it, and just do what you were told to do from, do it. It has a lot of meaning and can do wonders, So.